The following production is brought to you by the Talkin' Buds Leaf Show.
Here we go, Talkin' Buds Leaf Show, episode 248, a post-game edition, a Halloween post-game edition. Ryan, did you do anything for Halloween? Did you dress up as anything?
No, I took this year off, and I got nothing going on, except I have a bit of an issue here. Like, you see in the camera right now, I got a bit of a lather going on.
Yeah.
So my building turned off the air conditioning, turned over to heat, as a lot of people know that thing happens. And
Yes.
I'm just sitting here sweating my bag off watching the Leaf game. So, like, if I need a towel or something.
Because
Gross.
it is like warm outside. Like,
Yeah, it's
I'm here
balmy.
tonight. I'm here tonight handing out candy in a t-shirt.
Yeah. So
I got a
excuse
rule on the
lather.
Halloween candy. Okay? If you come to my doorstep and you have facial hair and you're standing there with a pillowcase, get the fuck off my front porch.
Why did that happen?
Yeah, so these because the later it gets, the high schoolers start to come out, right? It's like,
Yeah.
you're way too old for this.
Yeah.
So my new rule now is earlier in the night, I'm just going to load all the little kids up, all the cute little kids in their wonderful costumes up with all the candy. And so when the high schoolers wheel around at 8:30, I'm going to be like, sorry, no candy.
Just grab the clear bag of Cheetos and just hand them all that when they come out late at night.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So we're coming to you after the Leafs 4-1 victory over the Seattle Kraken. An interesting game. I would come away from this saying the Leafs, the more talented team, defeated the Kraken, a less talented team. There were moments in this game where I actually thought the Kraken outworked them a little bit. But overall, they outplayed them, scored some big, really highly skilled goals, and got the W.
Yeah, they did what they had to do. It's the dominance over the Western Conference hockey team continues for them. It's so interesting, this pattern they have where they just dominate every Western team and they can't beat a middling team in their own division or beat anybody in their division. But yeah, I agree. I think they just have more skill, more talent. They've kind of owned them the whole time they've been in the league. And I thought overall they came out a little slow. It's funny how I think every single game this season, by the way they start the game, by their first shift, I can kind of tell how the game is going to go. And they were a little slow to start, but then they got it back on track. And yeah, it was a good win. And honestly, they had a couple bad losses there in a row, and they've responded with 2 straight wins. So, I mean, we were on here absolutely throwing spaz over the weekend, and now they've won 2 in a row, and that's what the Leafs do.
Joe Woll makes 24 saves. You mentioned before we jumped on the air here that you thought they did a good job limiting quality chances, which helped him have a really nice bounce back game tonight.
Yeah, there was, they got their fair share of shots, but there was no time in this game where he was like out of his crease, sprawling around, going post to post, trying, like, when you're in those moments where you're just wincing, hoping something bad doesn't happen. I didn't see any of that tonight. I thought they did a good job of protecting the dangerous areas in their own zone. So he just had to make the saves he had to make, and he did that.
So 2 things from this game that sort of spring off into external storylines around the team right now. We'll start with the first one. They finally did what we and many other members of Leafs Nation have been clamoring for them to do, which is change up the power play units. They still have yet to score on the power play since doing that. However, I do think just the speed with which they're moving the puck and just they look far more dangerous overall with these 2 new units. Tonight's game in particular was the most dangerous that power play has looked, dating all the way back to last year. So Who knows what the rest of the season will hold in terms of who's on PP1 and who's on PP2. But I think mixing up the mix of guys was the right decision and something they should stick with for the foreseeable future.
Can they score a goal though? Like
Yeah,
I know
desperately
they
need to score a goal.
Yeah, like I know they tried a new thing, and it's nice to see a new thing. And I think what it does also is, like, in that one time where they started the Nylander one and they were on there past that minute mark, and you're like, oh, those boys on the bench must be just freaking out, ready to get over the boards. And then, but it almost puts a sense of urgency in them because now they only have 40 seconds to get something done to be the next top power play unit to go out next time. So, I mean, psychologically it can work like that, but dude, they got to score a goal, man. Like I know they moved the puck better. I know it looked a little bit better, but you gotta start capitalizing on those power plays.
It needs to become a weapon. Like you made this comment to me about the Monday game where Kyle Connor making the Leafs pay over and over again when the Jets are on the power play. And so you just cannot take another penalty because this guy's red hot. It's going to end up in the back of your net. And one of these units has to break through and become that. And that's sort of the next evolution for where this Leaf team needs to go, in my opinion.
And I think something that factors into that as well is just, I know they threw up this stat on the broadcast tonight of how Austin Matthews is getting as many chances as he did last year, or he's getting his shots on goal. But I don't know, from what I'm seeing, he just doesn't look that dangerous as he's been in the past so far this season. And I think that's also contributing to their power play just not looking that scary.
Why do you think that is? Like, I don't think that he's, like, when I watch him, I don't think he's sleepy out there. Do you think it's the pressure of having the letter on his chest and trying to be a complete 200-foot player and just making sure he's being as responsible defensively as he possibly could be? Because I don't watch him and go, man, he's sleepwalking. He doesn't have it. It's just he doesn't look right.
Yeah, he's kind of like, I don't know the right word to call it, because he's not like struggling, but it's just when you're as good as he is, like no matter how, like you're going to produce. Like top guys in this league produce, you know. You look at the box scores at every single night. It's always the same cast of characters getting their points, and he is still getting points, but we're not used to him not being as dangerous in terms of a goal scoring threat. And if you do remember that one season he had, not last year, but the year before that, he kind of went through the same thing, I feel like, a little bit, where he ended up with 40.
It took him a while to get going.
Yeah, it took him a while to get going, and he only ended up with 40. But I mean, at the start of the year, we said if other guys are contributing and it's not all about the core four, then we're kind of in a good spot, even though the core four still is getting points. But yeah, like at the end, like I'm happy he's focusing on defensive hockey, but he's still one of the top players in this league. Like at some point, I know it's killing him inside. He's got to break out. He's got to start putting the puck in the back of the net.
Storyline number 2. William Nylander comes out today in the media and says that he would like more ice time. Basically says he's looking for more ice time, and he feels his ice time is down this year from where it's been in previous years. Craig Berube subsequently kind of pours cold water on that and says, if Willy's playing well, I'm going to get him out there. Basically saying, earn your fucking ice time. So there's a bunch of different ways to go with this. How this sort of lines up with tonight's game is William Nylander goes out there and scores 2 goals. So if you want to make a statement for give me more ice time, he did that tonight by scoring 2 goals. A lot of different ways you could go with this. First and foremost, let's start on the positive pro Willy side of the equation, because you and I are both big Willy guys, which is so funny because if you were to go back 4 or 5 years ago on this podcast, to say that you would eventually become a William Nylander guy would be shocking to you. But this is very much a pro William Nylander podcast. You made what I thought was one of your best takes last week when you said, when he's going, they usually win. Now, the key part of that statement is when he's going. Because he does still have moments where he is a bit sleepy out there. They are a lot less frequent than they used to be when he was a younger player, but he still has his moments. So based on that, you could make the argument, yes, this guy's ice time is down a little bit. Let's try and get him out there a little more because he is the straw that stirs the drink. And of all the guys on their team, he's the one that can make something out of nothing almost by himself on a regular basis.
Yeah. Well, but how did you feel about the whole situation? Like, you just laid out kind of the pros and whatever, but like, what did you think when you first saw this?
So again, that first part aside, because I wanted to get I wanted to say he's got a point, and Willy is a player who backs it up, and when he plays well, is a force who can change a game on his own. So I wanted to get that part out there. How I really feel about it is I was not a huge fan of him commenting about it in the media. That type of stuff should be kept in-house. Don't take that to the media. I'm sure Craig Berube was also not a fan of that comment being made to the media, because the media in this market absolutely runs with something like that. Like Overdrive talked about it tonight. It was all over the TSN pregame show. Like, they just take the ball and run. Someone in the Athletics going to write an article about it. Like, it's just, they take that ball and run with it. So not a huge fan of discussing it in the media. And also, there's other things I want to talk about tonight, so I don't want to spend too much time on this particular part, but we talked a lot on this show about Craig Berube wanting to change the culture that exists here, and part of that is the entitled culture that Brendan Shanahan has allowed to fester with the help of Kyle Dubas and Sheldon Keefe. And basically what Craig Berube is saying is, earn your fucking ice time. If you play well, you're going to play. If you don't play well, you're not. And that's how it should be. And it's kind of alarming to me that a guy who's been in the league as long as Willy hasn't figured that out, and almost comes off. I don't think he meant to do this. I want to make that abundantly clear, but you can take it as he's coming off a little bit entitled. Like, in previous years, I've had 20 plus minutes of ice time, and now I'm at 17, 18, whatever it is. What the hell's going on? And it's like, no, man. Usually with teams that have good accountability and a winning culture, you earn your ice time. You're not just giving it.
Yeah, I mean, going out in the media and doing that, you're right. They're going to take it and run with it, and that's something you really don't want. And it seems like this situation is going to be handled differently with Craig Berube here than it would have been with Sheldon Keefe. That's for damn sure. But
yeah,
honestly, I that aside, I totally agree with him. I think he is by far their most dangerous player on their team right now. And once again, like, Mitch Marner just kind of like, why does Willy... I was listening to Jonas Siegel on Overdrive, and he was kind of like sticking up for Nylander a little bit. It's like, why is he held to a different standard? And I totally agree with that. It's like, this guy is... Look, what has happened to Max Domi and Bobby McMahon since they went off his line? Have they gotten a point? Are they even a factor offensively? And what was Max Pacioretty and John Tavares did before they got on his line?
Exactly.
Nothing. So it's like, this is what kills me. It's like, we're talking about, and then on the broadcast tonight, they're like, well, can this line work? And it's like, well, they look good for 2 or 3 games, but we'll see what happens in 40. It's like, well, look at the top line. Like, yeah, I know they're playing well defensively, but they're not in the offensive zone cycling the puck around, like eating up chunks of time. Like, they were hemmed in a couple times tonight, and every single time 88 was on the ice with those 2 guys, they were dangerous. They were moving the puck around in the offensive zone. So I know I don't love it in the media, and he's probably going to get a talking to with his coach about what he needs to do to get more ice time. That's my main
issue. I just want to make that abundantly clear. I'm with you. Like, it's great that he's hungry. It's just keep that dialogue in-house.
And I'm not disagreeing with you. I know you're not saying that you disagree with what he's saying. It's just, it's kind of made me think deeper into like the dynamic of him compared to Mitch Marner. It's just like,
oh, dude, there's no question. There's no question that 34 and 16 are held to, like, Willy has been held accountable a lot more in his time on this team than Matthews and Marner have. There's like, that is indisputable. Indisputable.
And I think just the proof is what I just said. Like, look what's happened with the guys on his line and off his line. And yet we can't separate the top line because they work,
such a
right? They're a
great point.
perfect line. Like,
man, I got to tell you, you've been
know.
bringing it. You've been bringing it the last couple of weeks. That's such a great point about Domi and McMahon. Those two guys have disappeared since being moved off William Nylander's line. Disappeared.
Yeah, now that line, they've only took one guy off the line. Like, it wasn't like they changed the whole line. Those two are still together. And tonight they're stuck with the guy who can't win a puck battle to save his life. And it's just that they're a non-factor offensively.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Today's episode of the Talking Buds Leaf Show is brought to you by Game Time.
Rob, the girlfriend and I just got a place right downtown. And since we've been down here, you know I've been to a couple Jays games. You know I've been to some concerts. And you know for a fact I'll be in the building for a couple Leaf games this season. And anytime I need to grab tickets to an event, I use Game Time.
I recently used Game Time to grab some tickets for you and me to go see Creed at Scotiabank Arena in November. I'm getting warmed up. I'm getting excited. Home now.
All right. If you keep going, they won't want to do business with us anymore.
All right. I digress. I'll save my Scott Stapp impression for another time.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier.
Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets.
Game Time Picks curates and makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, and theater.
They've got my favorite feature, which is called Seat Views, where you can get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy.
Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game Time.
You mentioned Pacioretty and Tavares. That line looked really good for the second straight game. So I agree that putting them with Willy has definitely elevated them, but I also think that it's sort of the perfect storm of, it's very clear Max Pacioretty just gets how to play with John Tavares. Those two guys have a natural chemistry that you saw starting to build in preseason that has carried into the regular season. And you add Nylander to the mix, and it's been a very effective line. Max Pacioretty is bringing... I loved his quote before the game that Mike Johnson read about how the best way I can help this team is by being physical. And I love that he used the word violent. I'm physical and violent when I have the puck. And always wins battle, a big body, wins battles along the boards, is finishing checks, knows where to be, knows who to pass it to, great awareness out there. And I don't know, man, it's just like him and John Tavares have really clicked since being put together in the preseason.
Yeah, they look good down low. Like, the thing that I like about Max Pacioretty from what I've seen is just when he gets the puck and he has to make a quick decision, he usually makes the right one. Mm-hmm. And he's also, again, a big body who can actually cycle the puck down low, because we've seen this team year after year after year just not be able to play that style of game. And I think if him and Tavares could work below the goal line and then find Willy wide open like they did tonight, then it's a recipe for success. I'm really pulling for this guy to like stay on that line and continue to contribute, because anytime you have a player who like used to be elite, but he's had like injury problems, it's just like, you're just praying that like some of that could come back and he can revitalize a John Tavares on that line and contribute offensively. And and it pisses me off when I hear guys being like, well, that line, we'll see what happens in game 10. It's like, shut up. Like, why can't this line be good? Like, they looked really good.
I think Pacioretty is an instance where you do need to manage his workload through the regular season, because to your point about how he makes smart plays, that's a guy who you want in the lineup in the playoffs to make those types of smart plays. So you got to make sure he stays healthy enough to get there. But every time he is in the lineup, he should play, unless they take a massive dip in how they look together, he should be playing with John Tavares.
Yeah, I agree. Like, just... There's only a handful of guys who fit on that line. It's like him or McMahon are either going like up and down that wing. I hope they can continue to play the way they've been playing, because it's fun to watch, and it's anything to get 91 moving. I'm on board for.
Anything else you want to hit on about this game tonight? I think, like I said, they got a string of Western Conference opponents coming up here. I think, just to sum it up, skilled team with more skill beat the team with less skill.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to put it.
Yesterday, we finally got the news that I think we were expecting. We didn't know when, but we knew it was coming. The Maple Leafs trade Tim Liljegren to the San Jose Sharks for Matt Benning, a 3rd-round pick in 2025, and a 5th-round pick in 2026. Timothy Liljegren is such a funny player to sit and really dissect his Leaf tenure. I heard some folks on the radio talking about it today, and it really just boils down to he was a 1st-round draft choice that you hoped would develop into top 4 defenseman material, and he just never did. And he had flashes where he looked pretty good and he would score you a nice goal every now and then. And you would go, holy shit, Tim Liljegren, look at that. But he just never took the leap they wanted him to make. Sheldon Keefe also at times was not the biggest Timothy Liljegren fan. They signed him to the bizarre extension in the summer, which I think was just Tree Living trying to make sure they had a bunch of defensive options locked up. So to be able to get Matt Benning, who you and I don't know anything about, but everyone who does know says he could potentially play in for the Leafs in the NHL, or he's an easy contract to bury with the Marlies. And to get a 3rd-round draft choice back for Timothy Liljegren, who's on that ticket, pretty good work by Brad Treliving.
Yeah, I guess it's basically Timothy Liljegren for a 3rd-round pick. I don't really have much to say about this. I feel like we've talked about this guy to death, and we just know he just never excelled at anything. He was drafted as somebody who had some offensive upside, and that never materialized. He wasn't a big body, so if he's on the 3rd pair, it's well, if you're not gonna be good at moving the puck around, then what are you doing? So it was just see you later. I hope you get all the ice time you can get in San Jose.
Yeah, it's there was a lot of people after the trade was made on Twitter sharing the Leafs draft history from the Shanahan era, and it's not good. It's not good.
No,
Brendan Shanahan gets credit for what he when he took the organization over. It was in a dumpster fire state, and he brought them out of that. And in a lot of ways, he takes a lot of flack from me personally for sticking with the same thing over and over again and being too afraid to make change. But it does not get talked about enough. The Lamoriello, Mark Hunter, Kyle Dubas draft history and what it's produced, because it's not much.
No, it's really bad. Honestly, I need the names list by list. I need to do my homework and go name by name. But yeah, but the proof is on the team right now. Who was on the team right now that they drafted and developed?
Literally, it's
Matthew Nyes,
Joe Woll.
Did they draft Bobby McMahon?
They signed him. They didn't. I'm pretty sure he was unsigned, or undrafted. Excuse me. Joe Woll, Matthew Nyes, and the core 4. If you remove Tavares, Riley, Nylander, Marner, Matthews.
Yeah. So
and that's
anybody they've drafted who's not been in the top 10 has basically they've also traded. They also have, but if you look back, they also did trade away a bunch of dudes who did show some promise as well.
Well, and Kyle Dubas, man. How many times did Kyle Dubas trade away futures and draft picks to either go all in at the trade deadline or move off of Patrick Marleau or whatever? And it's just, that is not something that gets talked enough about in the Shanahan era, is how not great the drafting and development has been in terms they've never found a gem in the 3rd round who's turned into anybody. They've just never been able to do that.
Yeah, no, it's true. It is something that it's not looked at enough and it's not talked about enough. But yeah, it's a reason why they've had depth issues. in the past.
This is old news now, but we haven't done an episode since it was announced on Monday. And Jake McCabe signs a 5-year extension carrying an AAV of $4.51 million. Here's my thing. You don't love the term, but it's a decent price for a guy who brings what Jake McCabe brings. Yeah. And in the NHL right now, that's kind of the price it do. Like, if you're going to get him on that ticket that works for your salary cap, you got to give him the term. He's not going to concede on both. So they've got a lot, like their defense is pretty old, and they've got a lot of guys that they're carrying into next year. But listen, Jake McCabe, there's times, but my criticism of Jake McCabe that I've said before is I think sometimes he thinks he's a little more skilled than he actually is from an offense perspective. However, there's a lot of things that you love about Jake McCabe. You love his leadership. You love his physicality. You love the way his positioning in the defensive zone. You love how stable of a player he is. Like, there's a lot of positives with Jake McCabe. So I have, again, don't love the term, but in today's NHL, it's the price of doing business, and it just is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's very Leafy. Like, when of the Leafs have ever had a young defense core that was coming up? Like, they've always kind of signed this type of player. And
well, it's, you know what's funny, Ryan, is like, just to bring this full circle to the Liljegren conversation, just have a general talk about the defense. Like, you look at their defense a few years ago, right? Like, Liljegren, he's gone. Sandin, gone. Travis Dermott, gone.
Yeah.
Like, all these guys, they're all gone.
Yeah.
And they've ushered in this older, more experienced group that right now looks very good. You and I have talked a lot about how much their defense core, how much better their defense core looks this year.
Yeah, compared to last year for sure. But even going back like pre-Shanny days, like I feel like they've always just kind of had like an older defense core. Like, they've just never really had any like young studs. It's one of those situations where it's like, do I love Jake McCabe? Like, not really. Is he a bad player? No. Does he make good plays? Yes. Am I thrilled to have him around for as many years as he signed? Not really, but like, it's kind of just like, what other option do we have here? Like, let's just try to get this number under 5 to make people happy, and let's just get it done.
Well, and you know, like, moving out Liljegren gives them a little bit of cap relief, but they still have to do still have to make a few more moves here, Ryan. Like, Calle Jarnkrok's coming back. Connor Dewar will be back at some point. Everyone keeps saying that Yanni Hakanpää will play at some point this season. So I don't know when that's going to be. I'm guessing that'll be later on in the year, but they still have moves they have to make.
I thought he was like a little bit close.
Well, maybe, I don't know, but like, I heard that his like knee injury was like really, really, like, it's a tough injury he's coming back from. So yeah. I would imagine, just given the way they handle these things, them being extra cautious with him. But yeah, we've talked about this a lot. Like, you look up and down their salary cap. It's like, they got to move some more bodies out here. And like, as much as like people have Nick Robertson circled, that's only $875,000. Moving him out does not give you a ton of cap relief.
Yeah. Like,
you've got to look at potentially moving out a Kampf. You got to look at potentially moving out maybe even a Jarnkrok. Like, I don't know. Calle Jarnkrok to me is so interesting because, like, where is he going to play? Like that the Nick Robertson spot is where you slot in Calle Jarnkrok if you're just writing it out. Like, right now, you were talking about how Robertson's on the line with Domi and McMahon. It's like, if Calle Jarnkrok's healthy, he's playing on that line.
Yeah.
And is he doing are Domi and McMahon's numbers better since being moved away from Nylander if they're playing with Calle Jarnkrok? I don't think so.
No, but they're probably prone to less defensive mistakes if Calle Jarnkrok's on the line.
And this is why I think Craig Berube will fall in love with Calle Jarnkrok the same way Sheldon Keefe did, in the fact that he's a very defensively responsible player.
Yeah. So I think that's the only upside. Because if Nick Robertson, like, if he's not scoring, like, he's guy's useless. Again, like, I'm watching him, and it's, if he has the puck with speed, like, he can make a move or two.
Ryan. He's too small. He's too small. Like,
he can make a move or two and make a nice pass and be like, whoa, look at that. Like there's the skill. But it's just like, like he's done, like he scored one throwaway goal. Like I don't know. It's tough to watch.
Robertson's
sometimes.
a guy who I think will always struggle because he's too small. But you think perhaps like San Jose would be a great destination for him. Like that's a team that's going to come in last place. He'll play in their top 6. He'll play big minutes for them. Like go out and just get the experience of being a smaller guy in the league because you're not going to get it here. He's not going to get a top 6 look here.
And he doesn't deserve it. Like I hope he does well. I wish he does well. I think he's got a lot of great tools, but he hasn't earned a top 6 spot. You don't talk about earning something. He hasn't earned anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's too bad, man. It's too bad because he had a hell of a preseason, but he's just not going to get the looks here and the opportunities here. He's just not. It's just not a fit.
And he's having a hard time creating his own looks too. Like it's just like I don't know. Like he could make a move and a pass, but other than that, it's just like you can't get the puck through a guy. A shot's blocked. He's muscled off the puck. He's giving the puck away. He's trying to make an extra move. It's not working. Like I don't know. I was really watching him tonight, and I thought he really struggled.
Saturday night in St. Louis, do you start Anthony Stolarz or do you start Joe Woll?
I start Anthony Stolarz 10 times out of 10.
I disagree. I disagree. I start Joe Woll because I thought Joe Woll had a decent game tonight and something because you need to get Joe Woll going. Like at the end of the day, I think Stolarz, when all is said and done,
you've bought back into Joe Woll being the number 1 guy. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Hold on. Yeah. Absolutely not. When all is said and done, when game 1 of the playoffs rolls around, Anthony Stolarz will be in the net. That is my prediction. However, he's played a lot of hockey to start this year. I'm with you. I don't buy into everyone poo-pooing how many games he's played in the league. Yeah, I think that's ridiculous.
Shut up. I'm so sick of hearing that.
I know.
Like,
I know. It's like, ridiculous.
Well, maybe it's time for him to. Maybe this is the year he doesn't play that many games because he's finally in an opportunity where he can have that opportunity to play more.
Exactly.
Games. Like,
but you need to get Joe Woll going. Like this, realistically, Ryan, this needs to be a tandem. It was always intended on being a tandem, and you need to get him going. And I think Stolarz will be fine. He's played a lot of hockey. They come right back on Sunday, so he'll get the start on Sunday against Minnesota. So just come right back with Woll, give Stolarz the extra day's rest, and let him try and get himself going here so we can get an actual tandem situation rocking.
Yeah. Well, if it was an actual tandem situation, he'd play Anthony Stolarz.
It's true, but Joe Woll hasn't played a lot. Stolarz has. Just come right back. Let him have a redemption game for St. Louis last week, and everybody go in and have a do-over against Craig Berube's old team.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really remember they have the Sunday game too. So I mean, it doesn't really matter at that point because it's like if you play him that game or the next game, I don't know. It's kind of the same thing. I don't know. Yeah. I want to see this guy I want to see this guy hurt again. So anytime you could, whatever team you think is going to see a higher workload from, put Anthony Stolarz in that game. Give Joe Woll the team that you think that's going to give him more confidence.
All right. Anything else you want to hit on before we get out of here? No? You don't want to talk about the team Halloween picture that TSN couldn't stop talking about tonight?
Yeah, that Timothy Liljegren was in. It was like, ooh,
yeah.
You're gone.
At what point was he at the party knowing he'd been traded, or was he? He's just there at the party and he gets the text being like, "You got a tree living." Like,
well, I don't know what day that party was. So,
wasn't it last night?
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure it was last night.
Well, maybe he just wanted to see the boys off, you know?
Yeah, maybe. And they were just like, "Hey, man, you don't have to leave for San Jose until tomorrow. Why don't you come to the Halloween party?"
Yeah, and then we're going to show it on TSN 500 times.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to ask John Tavares in the warm-up what his favorite costume was. So we're doing a post-game tonight. We won't be back for our usual Sunday episode because they play on Sunday. So the next time we will be back will be Tuesday night after the Bruins game. So a couple post games in a row. We don't love doing post games, but when the schedule dictates it, we do them. So we will be back Tuesday night after the Bruins at home. Hopefully that's a better outcome than last Saturday.
And there's a reason why. Like, you texted me, do you want to do Sunday post game or Bruins post game? And it's like they could absolutely dominate these two teams on the weekend, and that'll be great. But if they go out against that team and they suck again, it's all down the toilet. So I don't want to come out after a weekend of them playing well
against
like,
two Western Conference teams.
And then they go play the Bruins, and it's the same old story, and then we're just missing out on all the good stuff.
There's an opportunity for real fireworks if we do a post-game show after the Bruins game. So if you don't want to miss that, if you don't want to miss Ryan and I melting down should they lose to the Boston Bruins next Tuesday, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button below. Make sure you follow us on our socials. Links to those are in the description below. If you're listening to the audio version, like, subscribe, review, all that stuff.
Spread the word. Tell your friends.
We really appreciate it. We will see you on Tuesday after the Boston Bruins.